All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and through you to the members. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of H. 4554, an act prohibiting discrimination based on natural and protective hairstyles. And I ask that when a vote be taken on this bill be called by the yeas and nays.
Mr. Day moves that when a vote be taken by a call of the yeas and nays. Monitors will please return the count. First Division, 18. Sufficient number having risen. When a vote is taken, it will be taken by a call of the yeas and nays. Chair recognizes Mr. Day of Stoneham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, as well as thanks to the Chair of Ways and Means and your staffs for your collective work in bringing this bill to the floor. Thank you also to the staff of the Judiciary Committee for their work on this bill, as well as all the work they've been doing this term on bills before us. To the gentleman from Malden, who sponsored this legislation after hearing about a wrong done to two young women in his district. He immediately took action to right that wrong, so I thank him for his leadership here. To my vice chair, the gentle lady from Boston, thank you for leaning in, for elevating this issue and doing all that you did to bring this bill to the floor for a vote. Leading up to this debate, I heard and read dismissive commentary about our efforts here today. Hair. We have nothing better to do than pass a bill about hair, is what I read. Of course, we in this chamber know that this bill is necessary because of persistent attempts to outflank our laws on discrimination based on race. Hair, simply, has become a proxy used by those who traffic in racism. I suspect you'll hear more from the gentleman from Malden about the specific circumstances that led him to file this legislation. Briefly, on my end, it involved two 15-year-old schoolgirls who were subjected to discrimination in their school because they had the temerity to wear their natural hairstyle to school one day. That school sought to discipline these girls in keeping with what it said was its desire to, and I quote, create an environment that celebrates all that our students have in common and minimizes material differences and distractions. Distractions. So wear your hair in a way that we think isn't materially different than other students, or else we'll discipline you. Don't express your cultural identity by wearing a natural hairstyle in school. People across the Commonwealth of color, particularly black women, have heard a variation of that theme all too often. They continue to face discrimination in school, in the workplace, and in public spaces based on the texture and style of their hair. It's racism by another name, pure and simple. We in this chamber all agree that discrimination based on immutable characteristics is insidious. We believe that our cultural differences are what makes us strong. They're not distractions. We act when we learn about the efforts to flank our anti-discrimination laws. And make no mistake, these efforts are persistent in this area. So today, we act. H. 4554 has 6 major components to it, all very straightforward. First, it bans policies that limit or prohibit natural or protective hairstyles in all school districts, school committees, public schools, and non-sectarian schools. It includes natural or protective hairstyles in school anti-bullying plans and requires that charter schools specifically address natural or protective hairstyles in their equal opportunity statements. It defines natural or protective hairstyles as texture, hair, type, and hairstyles, which include, but are not limited to, natural and protective hairstyles such as braids, locks, twists, bantu knots, and other formations. It expands existing anti-discrimination laws to protect discrimination based on a person's natural or protective hairstyles in schools, employment, labor organizations, housing, public accommodations, insurance, lending, and in other businesses. And it amends the definition of assault and battery for purposes of intimidation to include natural or protective hairstyles. Finally, it adds natural or protective hairstyles to the Massachusetts State Police's hate crime data collection and reporting requirements, and directs the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination to enforce these protections. This bill does not, by the way, interfere with any state, federal, or industry safety standards. I think it's particularly apt today when many of us in Massachusetts celebrate our Irish heritage and culture on St. Patrick's Day, and when many of our Jewish brothers and sisters celebrate the religious festival of Purim, that today, we in this chamber are coming together to remove practices and actions that have restricted the expression and celebration of other cultures. I urge you to join me in supporting this legislation and to vote in favor of H. 4554.